The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. In Franz Kafka's masterpiece, Gregor Samsa, a salesman, after waking up from a nightmare, realizes that he is turned into a cockroach. A man turned into the most gross insect alive. This is the main theme in one of the most famous novels of all time. Poor Gregor Samsa. His first thoughts concern others. What would his family become now that the breadwinner is unable to work? How could he fix the terrible fate he instilled upon his parents and sister? And the heartless universe echoes the answer. No need to fix anything, Gregor. The world will continue to go merrily round and round very well without you. This is the verdict upon Gregor Samsa in this depressive story about a salesman who lives like a human and dies like an insect. In this claustrophobic novel, Gregor suffers horrible things: abandonment, indifference, injuries, contempt. Everyone, from his boss at work to his family, are utterly disappointed in him. He is a son who fails to carry out the expectations of the world. He even seems to fail God, as it is written in the Bible, that the father who has a son never dies. And what a son Gregor Samsa is. Utter disappointment. Gregor, the insect with the brain of a human, feels it is impossible to live in the society of men. His life, regulated like his father's had been before, his strict timetable, his interests that revolve around his work only. Gregor Samsa, Kafka's immortalized hero, must have had enough with the emptiness and repetitive ugliness of his unloved existence. He must have felt like a cockroach long before he became one, because this insect's name constitutes a powerful metaphor in the social setting. Isn't it that a man who's considered filthy and ugly and of a lesser value called a cockroach in many different cultures? A shameful man, that's the identity of the excommunicated Gregor. If we read Kafka's biography, we can even begin to muse into possible explanations for his psychological outlook, which is transmuted into his hero Gregor Samsa, all due to the relationship Kafka had with his father. However, what remains a mystery and the undelivered key to the metamorphosis of a man into the lowest form of existence, that is a cockroach, is the nightmare, the dream. Had it not had any significance, it wouldn't have been there. And yet, Kafka does not give his secret away. What was in this nightmare that made Samsa wake up as a member of another species? A nightmare is often regarded as an indicator, a premonition of evils, and indeed it justifies its mysteriousness in the novel. But I think that the nightmare is the metamorphosis. Gregor Samsa does not wake up after a nightmare. He cannot make it disappear, as the nightmare leads to another nightmare, in a way that the readers don't know whether they stand in or out of Gregor's nasty, punishing, but also liberating in its masochistic abandonment dream. All his fears, all his disappointments are let loose. If society, colleagues, family are disappointed in him, well, Samsa, the cockroach, is also disappointed in them. He cannot communicate with them. After a while, it is only music he responds to. He can only feel, think, and continue to love music. Sibling love seems more enduring, although helpless and weak, while parental response to the needs of Gregor is non-existent. Plus, our hero gets his fatal wound after the father throws a fruit at him. Not just any fruit, but an apple. In the rebuilding of family life away from Gregor, in the refurbishing of paradise, Eden, the son is expelled, is non-existent. In the jargon of the Oedipal conflict, he is killed before even attempting patricide. The Metamorphosis is a tragedy, in the sense the Oresteia by Aeschylus was. Only that the sole bearer of hatred, humiliation, and contempt is the son. Despite its simplicity and Dorian style, the Metamorphosis is operating through multiple and complex psychological constellations. Like a skilled puppeteer, Kafka manipulates his heroes marvelously, unraveling their malice, their rage, their petty hopes, that after a point in time do not affect Gregor. Abandoned and all the more swallowed by his new existence, after a while his thoughts have nothing to do with everyday worries and chores. After a while, he gives in to his overwhelming sorrow, and with his wounds deteriorating, he eventually dies. It is possibly abandonment, emotional abandonment, that leads him to his death. Kafka's The Metamorphosis is a cry for affection, is a long speech against the lack of love, against coldness and emotional cruelty. Gregor Samsa is angry. He feels devalued, going unnoticed although the breadwinner of the family, a man of duty that unleashes his rage by turning into an animal. However, feeling guilty about his revolt, he does not turn into a wolf or a wild feline that could devour his unloving family, but turns into a contaminating, ugly insect. It is even funny if you look at it with a sense of humor. Gregor failed even into this, internalizing the aggressivity of his environment and acting out in a childish, clownish manner of non-achieving even a simple task. Simple. Man turned into insect. Gregor turned into a cockroach. That's what he feels his value is for his own people. Kafka's sad, cunning masterpiece is in a way the equivalent of Munch's cry for love, for help, for esteem, for communication.